Okay, so as much as I loved this movie, it is super inconsistent with the story if you connect it to the games. And what I mean by that is that the plot of the film by itself, if you don't connect it to the games and look at it just as a movie, is totally fine. But if you're going into this movie with the mindset that they got Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg to play younger versions of the characters from the game because it's a prequel like the TV show Young Indiana Jones, then it doesn't work as a prequel because there are a lot of action sequences that are in this movie that are lifted directly from the games. So by that logic, these things have happened to them twice. And I did say games, plural, but I'll get to that in a bit. So for example, the scenes that were in the trailer, like the airplane sequence and the sequence kind of near the end of the movie involving pirate ships, those are all from I think the second and third games. And so by that logic, if this is a prequel, these exact same scenarios happened almost the exact same way to these characters twice. So that doesn't make sense. So I don't look at this as a prequel. I look at it as sort of an amalgamation of the first three games with a bit of a prequel-ish spin, because this does show Nathan Drake's first encounters with Sully and Chloe, and explains why when you meet Chloe in the second game, she hates Nate. So in that sense, it's a prequel, but all of the action sequences and puzzles and stuff like that are all directly lifted from the first three games. So just know that going into it, don't try to connect it to the games, keep them separate, keep them as two separate universes or what have you, and you'll probably enjoy this movie a lot more. But like I said, they really put effort into this, both as a movie and just looking at it they really, really put a lot of dedication and effort into this, because it captures the spirit and tone of the games almost perfectly. The sense of fun and adventure are recreated so well, and Holland, even though, he is a bit too young, I think he still did the best job he could. He had a really sharp dynamic with Mark Wahlberg. They bounced off of each other very well, and Wahlberg really keeps the loving sarcasm that his character in the games does, and had a very believable dynamic. And Holland actually also has a really good dynamic with the love interest in this. And everyone in the cast works so well off of each other. And Antonio Banderas, he is great as the villain in this. He absolutely steals every scene he's in, but he's also very underused. I mean, he's technically the main villain, because he's the one, the main threat that the story revolves around, but his henchmen get more screen time than he does. If you look at the amount of screen time that the henchmen and everything do versus how much he does, even though he's the main guy, they get a lot more screen time. Banderas is only in the movie for maybe 10 or 15 minutes total, so his henchmen are more worth it than he is. So, and also he was kind of blandly written, but the villains in the games were also kind of blandly written, so there you go. That's just kind of how the games are, I guess. And my only really other criticism is it's very clear who paid for this movie, because there's some pretty in-your-face product placement. And that's not unusual for a Sony movie, because there's always product placement in Sony movies, and it's usually Sony products. And I don't mean that there's Sony products in this movie, at least not that I can remember, but the in-your-face product placement is basically, there's a scene where the main joke is about Mark Wahlberg making a wrong turn into a Papa John's, and it lasts for way too long. It is very awkward and out of place. It took me out of, there was still a couple modern references too, people have smartphones, and it's oh, you have this app downloaded onto your phone? He's don't judge me because that's so little things that were supposed to be kind of product placement jokes, those really took me out of it, even though they were brief. But other than that, I had a fantastic time with this movie. I had a grin on my face the whole time. I thought it was a fun, slick adventure movie with very well done, fun action, very likable actors, very likable characters, and a script that harkens back to older adventure films. It's fun escapism. It's well directed. It's definitely an adventure worth going on. If you're a fan of National Treasure, Indiana Jones, Romance in the Stone, or just adventure films in general about going to find treasure and just going on this journey, just having a lot of fun while you do it with really ridiculous action sequences, you will love this. So overall, I would give Uncharted an A-, a 9 out of 10, and a 4 out of 5 stars.